This tutorial is how to use your MIDI or MPE keyboard with seqMPEror. So first let's see a few of the routing that we have to make. And one thing that is important to know is that seqMPEror in this case will act as a MIDI device that is in between the input MIDI track and the receiving track. So we will get MIDI data into seqMPEror, and seqMPEror will affect this MIDI data based on its parameters, and then it will send it to equator. So in a way, seqMPEror is acting as a MIDI transformer. So in order to achieve that, we have to do a little bit of routing. And so on the first track, I have already put it seqMPEror, and on the second track, I have put the equator. So in order to receive MIDI, obviously, from your keyboard, we just select the keyboard. In this case, I'm using a complete control keyboard, so a regular MIDI keyboard. And we have to send it through seqMPEror to our equator track, so equator track here. So we don't need to do any input here on the equator track because we are already sending it from here. And now you will see that we will move some notes, but obviously it won't work until we hit the play button. So you can see that we are changing the pitch. If we move to velocity, we're changing the velocity. But we are getting no sound because we haven't turned on the transport of Ableton, and seqMPEror needs transport to be on in order to work, because it will then consider the note values and so on. We will see this in detail later. So let's just now turn the transport on, and let's switch to velocity, so we will see that we are sending data to seqMPEror. And we are getting sound. So this is the basic routing that we have to do in order to use seqMPEror with your keyboard, and then to make seqMPEror transform the MIDI input that you are sending to the destination, so in this case to the equator track. Okay, now that we have done the routing, let's explore how we can actually use seqMPEror to transform our MIDI input from our MIDI keyboard. Please note that some concepts apply to both the normal MIDI keyboard and the MPE keyboard. So let's put some notes in on our keyboard. And one thing that you can immediately hear is that the notes are repeating. And this is because we have on the note repeat. So if we don't want our notes to repeat, we just turn it off. And now they are not repeating, but they are just played once. So another thing that you may notice is that they are playing now in quarter notes. And this is again because this is our setting in seqMPEror. So if we move to the time module, we see that we have set our notes to quarter notes. But obviously we can change that. So we can move a bit up. I have 8 notes. So now the notes are going to be shorter. And obviously we can add different notes. And we have some different notes values appearing here. Let's just for now just make it again quarter notes. And let's take a look at another important parameter, which is the duration. So if we now move to duration, we see that we have 100% range, and that the notes are at 100, which means that they will play exactly one quarter note. But we can make this shorter. So let's say we make really short notes. So they are going to be again quantized to the quarter notes, but they are going to be playing shorter. So as you can hear, they are playing shorter. put it in the middle, we will get like 8 notes. And we can go also extend the range, so we can go to 100, but we can set the range like 200. And so now the notes are going to be longer than on, let's say, time note duration value. And so we have a lot of options there, and we can increase this drastically, the duration range, or go to really lower values. One thing to also consider is that we can still use all the things that we know about seqMPEror that were talked in the previous videos, but just to recap here quickly, we can make a gesture of our note values and make different note values. So now we will get different note values when we play. So I'm going to be shorter, so I'm going to be longer, depending on the note value. And this can be also useful with the note repeat. And let's put our range again to 100. So we can get quite complex textures by applying the timing and the duration. And again, also the duration can be set to different durations, so it can be shorter and longer and so on. So we can get a lot of variation there. And so now if we play, so we are getting a lot of variation there. And obviously we can also change the note values to some more complex stuff, like the triplets notes, the dotted and triplets, and even divisions and so on. So we can get quite really complex rhythms, and we can also add a little swings to these regular notes. So we will get quite a complex rhythm now. And obviously we will still define the pitch and the velocity and everything on our keyboard. So we can get quite really complex stuff. And now both the timing and the duration of the notes are affecting our playing. So we can get quite interesting results. As you heard, seqMPEror is basically working as a MIDI real-time quantizer. So it's quantizing our notes based on the note values that we have. So again, and this is can be quite nice to play, but additionally it's also quantizing the next module, which is the pitch module. And we have here the quantization. So now it's set to C major scale, so we can play in C major, or we can obviously change to something else, like to the root of A, and add why not a minor mode. So basically it's working like a real-time quantizer for the pitch and the timing, and also the duration of the notes. So it's quite interesting what we can get even of like really random stuff that we play. So we can play whenever we want, and it will sound quantized and in tune, also with our timing, with our click, and obviously with some drum loops or other things that we can use in Ableton, which is really nice, I think. And maybe this is also a nice opportunity to put some random notes in, like really random playing, and set this MIDI in or MPE in to true, so it will go through seqMPEror without being affected by its timing and pitch correction. So if we play without it, it sounds like this. And if we play with it, sounds quite nicer. So this is again a useful thing that we can use. So if we need, we can go through, and so we have different options. And in here we can also see that we have some other parameters that affects the MIDI, and these are the voices that we can set. So now it's set to 8 voices. So all the seqMPEror voices are playing, and sometimes this is what we want, but other times maybe we want just like 4 voices playing. So now if we turn to 4 voices, only the first 4 voices are going to be affected by our MIDI keyboard. So, and we will have a 4-voice polyphony. And this can be quite nice to reduce the number of notes, but also it could be quite nice because we can, let's say that like these 4 voices are reserved for our playing, and we can make some voices work in advance. So if we put on the gesture for these 4 voices, so they are now we don't play the MIDI keyboard, but they are actually playing. We are playing with our gestures on the mouse. So when we put some pitches, so we can make like this lower, play a bit with the spread. And so they are playing their thing, and we can now on top play with our keyboard, so on these 4 voices. We move to velocity to see also this. And by doing so, we have now independent voicing for the keyboard and for the in advance prepared material, which can be quite nice to have and to use. Yeah, why not in a live situation or to test things out. And again, this applies to all concepts, so we can have different times, duration, and so on. So this can be really useful. And also we can change that to less voices depending on how much voices do we need. Maybe you want to play just like a lead melody, and other voices are prepared in advance, or 2 voices, 3, 4, and so on. So this can be really useful to have different interaction with the program. Let's now see how we can experience MPE on a regular MIDI keyboard with seqMPEror. So, as you saw, we are splitting our voices into 8 channels. So when we play regularly, we have done a little trick to split a regular MIDI keyboard we usually place on the first channel to 8 channels. And by doing so, we open the possibility to explore how it feels to have an MPE enabled controller, and how to play on a regular keyboard but experience some of the MPE capabilities. And how we do that? Just by playing, obviously, but obviously even regular keyboards can play on multiple voice when we talk about pitch and velocity, but not really, for example, Aftertouch. Because on a regular keyboard, when you press one key, all the keys will have the same effect with the Aftertouch. But in seqMPEror, each key of the regular keyboard will have a different Aftertouch depending on how we set it in seqMPEror. And this can open some really nice interaction with a normal regular MIDI keyboard. Let's see how this in action. So what we can do is obviously play a chord. So we have played a simple chord, And now we enable the Aftertouch for each voice individually. And obviously this is really nice with the gesture feature, because we can make a gesture, and in this case we are opening the filter, and so we will have like a morphing filter, which also extends a bit the capabilities of regular MPE in general. So let's try that. And now, as soon as we release it, we can play like chords. And are going to be affected by the Aftertouch that we have set with our gesture. And as you can hear, these chords are now polyphonically applied with this Aftertouch. And here it's also maybe nice to use the preset section, so like we can put down like a little, so with no filter in this case, store it, and then make like a range and store it, and then we can do like recalling it with the step sequencing. Maybe increase the speed. Or maybe even do a gesture of it. So with the morph, we can and obviously we can do a gesture, so we have this morphing filter now appearing and disappearing. And since the gesture is controlling this for us, we can move on and play with all hands. So I think you get the idea there. And this can be really useful, even if I apply this to, why not, to some pitch bending. And so again, this is per voice. So let's do just a quick gesture, and we will get like more aleatoric random results, which can be also nice. Also, it's nice if we use like a sustain. We can just make sustain some chords that we like. And now we can play with the Aftertouch, as we're doing now, or maybe with pitch bending, get some. And obviously we can still change the chords if you like to. So this can be really useful for sound design. And obviously we can also try the slide with, why not, random. And now some crazy things are happening inside of Equator. If you you take a look at the notes. And we can extend the pitch bend. Another way to experience MPE is with the trick of multi-channel that we have done in the background for you, to apply this to other options. So one thing that we can do is to apply velocity to other models. So how do we do that? We just simply navigate to, let's say, the Aftertouch, and here we have the MPE in, so which parameter we want to apply to velocity, to Aftertouch, and this is velocity. And this is not this velocity, so if we move it here, nothing will happen. But this is actually the velocity of our actual keyboard, of our MIDI keyboard. So when we play, you will see that not only the velocity will go up, but also the Aftertouch. So let's see that. And it's going to be polyphonic, because we have done the trick to transform one channel into multiple channels. So each voice, it will have both controls, so the velocity and the velocity to Aftertouch of the keyboard. So this is something that cannot be done on a regular keyboard, but only on MPE keyboard. But in this case, it is possible because it goes through seqMPEror. So let's try that. So one voice, let's make it quieter, and one harder now. As you can see, it corresponds here on the equator. So let's do this again. So one quieter. So the Aftertouch is not open; it's only under 50. And now one stronger, and it's fully open. So, and we have different filters control. And again, we can now display this. So we are at the same time controlling now, you can see also by these dots, the pitch, the velocity, and the Aftertouch with our keyboard's velocity. What we can also do is turn off the velocity input from our keyboard. So with this MPE or MIDI bypass, we won't control anymore the velocity with our physical keyboard. So now we are, as you can see, we are controlling it with our keyboard. But if we set the MPE bypass, now we don't control it anymore. But what we can do, we can set like fixed velocities, and they will play for us. And what we can do now, we can just use our velocity from our keyboard. So the velocities now here are set to around 20. And when we move to Aftertouch, we will entering with our velocity only the Aftertouch. So the velocity is going to stay at around 20, but here we are going to entering different Aftertouch. So let's try that. So we can make it quieter. Or louder. Or even more louder. So we are playing we are opening the filter with how hard we strike the velocity on our keyboard. And we can apply this concept of velocity to also other models such as pitch bend. So if we turn the velocity note on in this case and play with velocities, we will basically detune with our velocity. And we can also use it on other models. such as slide, and maybe an interesting one is the timing. So if we set to quarter notes, and now we can, so let's turn it on the pitch bend for now. We set it to center, and let's now move to the timing and set it to velocity normal. And let's try that. So basically now on how hard we press, we will change the note values. So we can be subtle with lower note values or more extreme. So we have a lot of options there. And also an interesting approach is that we can also take some other parameters such as MPE parameters such as Aftertouch, polyphonic Aftertouch, and apply it again here. So now if we use an MPE keyboard and change this to the corresponding keyboard, so to keyboard, now we can here play it with the Aftertouch. So as you hear, we are now controlling both with Aftertouch the Aftertouch and the note values. So we can get really expressive. This is the advantage of using an MPE keyboard with seqMPEror, which can get really interesting. And obviously we can, again, if we like to apply just so now we were applying both. So the Aftertouch to its corresponding parameter, so the Aftertouch, and to timing. But if we don't want to do that, again, we turn off the Aftertouch input. So we enable the MPE bypass. So now we are not affecting the Aftertouch with our MPE keyboard, but we are affecting the timing only. So you get the idea there, I think. We will now explore another way how to control seqMPEror with MIDI and also other controllers such as this MIDI Fighter Twister encoder controller. And so we will see how to mix different controllers together. So let's do that. So obviously we are controlling the pitch and the velocity with our keyboard, and I have set it just for voice, so that it's a bit, that we have a bit less voice. And now let's move to the Aftertouch, and nothing is happening, but we can map the Aftertouch with the Ableton mapping system. So we can map the first voice, second one, third and fourth. And now we can make, let's say, a 4-note chord. And now we can open the Aftertouch with our controller. For each voice, again, independently. So we can get some really interesting results also by doing so. Also, the pitch bend can be quite interesting in that scenario. So we make just a simple 4-note chord, a bit higher this time. And I have used the sustain, so the notes are sustaining now. And let's now move to the pitch bend, map the 4 controls to our encoders here. First one, second one, third one, fourth one, and now we can offset each voice. Let's turn off the note repeat. So we can play with the pitch bending. This can be also interesting. And combining this with Aftertouch, we can get some really nice evolving drones of it. So yeah, we can really play with that. So I think you get the idea there. Let's see also how we can use presets together with the MIDI mapping. So we just make a few presets, let's say of Aftertouch. First one, second one. Or let's do a bit more obvious. Let's do the fourth one with the random, and let's exclude some voice from the random and add them a gesture. Add another one, and this is the third one, and let's make another one with gestures. So this is the fourth one, and now we can simply record them again with the mouse or with the step sequencer, or with the morph, or even with the gesture and morph. But one additional thing that we can do is to use our controller to record these states. So again, we just simply enable MIDI mapping of Ableton. We select the first button, select the, in this case I will use the note message. So this is going to be the first preset, second one, third, and fourth. So now we can play and record these states with our preset. Let's turn on the note repeat again. So we can have the first preset, second one, third one. So this can be really useful in a live situation when we can combine different options. So also we can use this on other things such as the global presets, and so we can prepare entire scenes with different MIDI controls such as note on, program changes, and other type of MIDI controls. You can find more about how presets work and how to record and edit MPE and MIDI data in the dedicated preset tutorial. So that sums it up. Hope you have learned something, hope you have enjoyed this tutorial, and hope you will have fun exploring all the MPE and MIDI options that seqMPEror offers. Thanks.